his credibility is just non-existent at this point. He played his cards in this investigation. He decided what was going to be charged. He was at one point, based on the information releases from this weekend, was at one point not even going to charge him. And he was the part of the investigation that allowed the investigative steps not to occur.
That was IRS whistleblower Gary Shapley there, telling Fox News that the credibility of David Weiss is now non-existent. Now, David Weiss is the Delaware attorney who's leading the investigation into Hunter Biden, which has been operating since 2018. Despite being a Trump-appointed attorney, David Weiss has come under fire for the way he's led the nearly 5-year investigation into whether Hunter Biden committed tax violations, money laundering, and lying on a form when purchasing a firearm. That's because when a plea deal was made between DOJ prosecutors and Hunter Biden's legal team, it was slammed as a sweetheart plea deal, with Republicans believing the president's son is not getting the full punishment. And then 2 IRS whistleblowers came forward, testifying before Congress, stating that their investigation into Hunter Biden's potential tax crimes was stymied. They claimed under oath that every step of the way they were interfered with. They weren't given full access to available evidence or allowed to conduct certain interviews. Certain tax years were allowed to expire despite agents wanting to lay charges, and that Hunter Biden always benefited. Gary Shapley had been the one leading the IRS probe since 2020. His fellow agent, Joseph Ziegler, had been there since the start in 2018. Despite the fact that Attorney General Merrick Garland vowed under oath that David Weiss had all the authority to lead this investigation and advise on whatever charges he believed was necessary, these two claim that wasn't the case.
I will also note that while the impression has been conveyed by the U.S. Attorney in Delaware that he has similar powers to that of a special counsel in this case, free rein to do as needed, that was not the case. It appeared to me, based on what I experienced, that the U.S. Attorney in Delaware in our investigation was constantly hamstrung, limited, and marginalized by DOJ officials as well as other U.S. attorneys. I still think that a special counsel is necessary for this investigation.
David Weiss did not have special counsel status. If he did, he would have had the authority to recommend charges outside of his Delaware jurisdiction. That would have been important because the IRS agents were looking into criminal charges made in California and Washington, D.C. that were left to expire because they were outside of Mr. Weiss's powers. But after the bombshell testimonies were exposed, the New York Times revealed over the weekend that David Weiss was willing to forgo prosecution of Hunter Biden at all. That was until these whistleblowers came forward. The article reads, "The office came close to agreeing to end the investigation without requiring a guilty plea on any charges." But the correspondence reveals that his position, relayed through his staff, changed in the spring, around the time a pair of IRS officials on the case accused the Justice Department of hamstringing the investigation. Mr. Weiss suddenly demanded that Mr. Biden plead guilty to committing tax offences. Gary Shapley said this news was shocking, given that David Weiss knew everything about the investigation. Hunter Biden's sweetheart plea deal did end up collapsing in July when Judge Mary Ellen Noreika deferred it, stating that she needed more time to assess it. So what happens now? Well, Republicans aren't happy, knowing that the man leading the probe has been called into question that many times now. The House Oversight Committee released a statement requesting documents on how the investigation into Hunter Biden is going. The DOJ appears to be continuing to sacrifice its professional responsibility to cover for the president's son and perhaps the president himself. Based on your statements and the DOJ's pattern of politically motivated actions, we are concerned that the DOJ is limiting your office from fully investigating the disclosures provided to your office. To help the committees understand the scope of your investigation, please provide documents and/or information sufficient to explain whether your office is 1, limited in any way from fully investigating the whistleblower's disclosures, 2, if you are limited, how and why your office is limited. Gary Shapley said he's still willing to work with the team despite being stood down after he made his protected disclosures to Congress. He said, "I would be full on board to assist moving forward, whether it was with Mr. Weiss or with a different special counsel, and I don't know really how it moves forward without it."